what was your first professional gig? I don't know if that was acting or if that was radio, but tell us about that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. The first professional gig was radio. And like I said, I was 19. I decided on the summer, from my freshman year, I'd work at maybe a local radio station. I called them every day, and the program director had no interest in me whatsoever. But he said, hey, why don't you call back tomorrow at 11? And eager beaver, hey, I want to do a great job. I would call every day at 11, and I was so goddamn sorry. I know this is a family show, and I'm swearing. Forgive me. I hope we have a beeper.
No, let her loose.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I was so GD determined to get through that I called every day for like maybe 7 or 9 days. And then finally, it's like, Moneen, you're serious. Okay. Let me give you a tour of the station. Man, you're persistent, and I won him over. And they hired me on the spot as a news stringer, to report on local things. And then that same afternoon, I went into the studio. I saw the guy who was on the air in the afternoon, and he was playing songs, and he was talking fast, and he was giving stuff away, and he was recording callers, and he was making things happen all the time. And it was oldies music. It was music that was older than I was, but I loved it. And I just said, I want to do that. And I talked them into keeping the station on an extra 2 hours. It went off the air at midnight. That's how small it was. More wattage in my blow dryer than this radio station. However, it was my training ground, and I stayed on from midnight to 2 a.m. And I have a listener friend who remembers those days. He still stays in touch. Mike from Exeter, hello. And then by the end of that summer, I just worked at it. By the end of the summer, I was driving a 59 Ford Fairlane convertible and doing beach reports and earning a salary that was beyond what I ever thought at that age. And I'm not proud of this, but everything was from the streets. I learned from the streets, and I learned from kind of blind bravado. And since this is a little bit of a mommy fest with telling mommy stories, she never questioned that I could do anything. And she'd make me like little roast beef sandwiches and pack things up because it was a 6-hour shift. And this is before digital and automation. So a 2.5 song meant a 2.5 minute song. A 1.5 minute song meant you just have to always be on the move. And I loved it. And I went straight from New Hampshire to Boston, and things just happened. It just really, like I said, blindly, just like, do I know how to do that? Yeah, when I didn't know. And that's why conservatory meant so much to me, as I've discussed with you, because having a diploma, especially from someone that we both admire and adore and has influenced us so much, Tom Todoroff and his conservatory and all the faculty there, whom I know that you've had Mary Lou on your podcast, Mary Lou Rosado, and I know how you feel about Tom. We all feel that way. Brandon, you too, because you're part of the Saturday scene. To have some validation and some education to back up 34 years of just doing my own thing. It's like a perfect little punctuation mark. It really makes me feel good.
Yeah. I want to unpack that a little bit, because that's such a great lesson for everyone, no matter what stage you're in, just having that little extra level of audacity to make things happen, to show up on doorsteps, to send an email, to make a phone call, to find someone in person and make an impression. All under the heading, really, what you were doing is you were fighting for what you wanted. You decided that you wanted something and you were just willing to do it. And maybe there might have been something like, well, you can't just go down to the radio station and talk to them. You need to send them a letter or whatever it is. You have to fill out their formal application. And I've known so many people in all avenues who they were flat out audacious, almost to the point of like, is this a good idea or isn't it? But they always were able to toe that line where then it did work out. And so you kind of get in the side door or the back door, and then you can do something like what you're saying as far as getting the training later on is then you, like, I guess you don't have to follow. Everyone thinks there's a certain order, but there really isn't. Everyone does something, like everyone's career in the arts and entertainment is entirely different, and there's no set order, like you got to do this and then this and then this and this and this. Sometimes skip ahead, like what is the shortest distance between two places is sometimes a straight line.
Straight line.
And you just, well, what do you want? Okay, I'm going to just march down there and talk to that person.
Right. Falling forward, if you're
Yeah.
being shoved, fall forward, and you're right. There, it's not a linear process. It's really, it's, again, as Tom would say, we're going to quote him 1,000 times, everything is everything, right? Everything is everything. So as our emotional growth, happens, and our psychological awareness happens, I can absolutely chart my career along with my mental status. The times that were up, everything was together, and the times that have come down have needed reorganization. So sometimes you don't know. Sometimes
Right.
you just don't know.
Yeah, and you and I are similar in the fact that we both had fairly long careers. Like I had started doing stand-up and acting around 2009, and then professionally by around 2012, 13. So I'd been doing this 10 years and booked lead roles and things, and showcased and done a ton of stuff in stand-up, and been lead roles and ensemble lead roles in TV and film, and had a lot of success. Which for a long time I did wear that as a badge of honor, like you, where I was like, oh, look at me, how well I'm doing. And I'm never formally trained. I've never gone to a conservatory or a TV film or theater school. I wore it as a badge of honor. And then later on, I started to think, what if this success is not because I'm winging it or learning it from the streets or patching together an education? What if I'm having this success despite that? And what if I layered on top of that proper training and a full conservatory like program? And that's I'd met Tom many years before I did conservatory, but that all aligned properly. And I also started to, I think I nipped it in the bud, but I started to envision a situation in my life where I would have more imposter syndrome the longer I stuck around, or the quote unquote higher and higher I went, where I'm going to be like working with actors who have they've Juilliard trained, and they've done Royal Shakespeare Conservatory and all kinds of things like that, where it's like I would start, whether it was true or not, if you're feeling it, if you feel that imposter syndrome, it can really negatively affect you. So I wanted to, for me, it was take that training so that I could dispel any of those myths. Like, now I've had the career, I've had all the bookings, I have all the credits, I have a resume, and I have the training on top of that. So if anyone looked at a resume, they're not going to be like, oh, this is great. Has he never trained? What's that? I can't have an untrained actor working here. So,
Right.
yeah, it was
And
a
that
great,
shows your love. That
yeah.
really shows your love of the craft, Lars, because we have this in common as well, in that, I mean, you have smelled the same rarefied air as Jason Momoa,
I
and
smelled his
so
beard. I've smelled Jason Momoa air, like this close, this
right,
close. And he
rarefied.
smells fantastic. Jason, I don't know what you're wearing, but if I were to ever be with my eyes closed in a room and Momoa was there, I could, Jason, is that you? I would still smell him. It was very
You could
unique.
smell the Jason.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that is a badge of honor. And you could very easily say, I know what I'm doing. And one of the radio highlights was co-hosting a morning show with the Emmy Award winning Tom Bergeron. I'm sorry, I have to say the
Oh, that's
Emmy
huge.
Award
I
winning,
saw that
you
in
know,
your bio, and I was like, Tom Bergeron is a fucking legend. Game show
uh,
host,
he's
American Funniest
America's
Videos
host.
as well. Did he do that?
He did America's Funniest Videos after our dearly departed Bob Saget.
Right. Right.
And he did the best years of Dancing with the Stars, like 17 seasons.
Right.
And then, which is something else we can all appreciate, for reasons of ethics and morals, and I don't want my name associated with certain things, he stepped back. Um so yeah, we both had some things that we could say, yeah, we're making it, and I can smile and read and sound good, and I can have a career just based on just being persistent and bubbly. But as we discovered along the way, um, dramatic, intense, uncovering roles. You know how I feel about your Henry. You know, Saint Crispin's Day. You know what a fan I am of your monologue, Lars, and to
Right.
hear and see you do heavy things when you're such a natural, funny guy and affable guy. And I'm kind of that way too. I liked the lighter side of things and to kind of gloss over some things. So to dig, like pull off the layers of wallpaper for us as performers and see that there's, you know, a beautiful, rich wall there. It's really satisfying. You know,
Yeah.
it's really satisfying. And it makes
Yeah.
me speak in lofty ways like this.
Right. And we talk about it often in many of our episodes here, Brandon, is we talk about growth and growing. And really it's like growth is really the definition of life. And if you're not growing, you're not just staying the same, you're going backwards. And taught people in every category of life, doesn't matter how seasoned they are, they're still learning and still growing. They're still seeing themselves as green newbies. And like even someone like Mary Lou Rosado, who's an acting titan and a Shakespearean titan, and she's a teacher. She was the head of drama at Cal Arts and Juilliard trained, and teaches at Yale and teaches for Todoroff. And every time she picks up Shakespeare, she's always learning something new, and she's discovering something new about the text, about the language, about herself. So I think that's just such a hallmark of top performers, is that you're never finished. This life is never finished.
Always curious, always digging deeper, you know. As she called us, you know, we're daredevils. You know, we dare to do things that maybe a lot of people would like to do, but just have a little bit of fear. And that's what I think is so beautiful about what you guys are doing. Because an actor who wants to audition, and maybe everybody's different. Sometimes you need hand holding. Sometimes you need a little push, a little shove. Sometimes you know, another thing Tom says is transformation must be witnessed. So having a couple sessions with Brandon, working with some actors, we experienced that where in like 23 minutes you can go from, you know, kind of being chilly and uncertain to, with these tools and techniques that we have, yes, there's instinct and that's so important, but then to go dig and in an efficient amount of time create something out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's transcendental.
Yeah.
It's really,
yeah,
really
it's magic.
beautiful.
And I think that's something that draws actors year in, year out to Tom, as they see him work with someone, whether it's a monologue or a scene, and after they do a cold read take or just their take, and then some 20 minutes of tweaks, and then you watch the final result and you're like, this is night and day. Now I'm watching this fantastic, super engaging scene where maybe I was watching something that was kind of flat and detached to begin with. So yeah, it's amazing.
And that's what you guys do. You know, that's what we're doing and you're offering. So
Brandon.